Good afternoon and welcome to this session, Helping Cities Lead the Way to a Carbon Neutral Future, in which two projects will be presented. So the C-TRACK-50 project and the CESEEU project. My name is Michele Sansoni. I'm a project manager working in the Life, Energy and Climate unit of CENEA, which is the new established European Climate Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency. So among the other programs supported by CENEA, CENEA manages in particular the LIFE program. And the new LIFE program will feature four sub-programs. One of them is the Clean Energy Transition sub-program, which will continue to support the market uptake activities previously funded under the energy efficiency call of Horizon 2020, which is the call which supported the two projects presented today. So if you have any questions on the upcoming LIFE program, please visit the LIFE stand in the virtual fair tomorrow afternoon, or you can also attend an info session, which is planned for 2:30 p.m. tomorrow. But now let's go back to the current session, which concerns the C-TRACK-50 and the CESEEU projects. Please, of course, mute your microphones and switch off your cameras. We will dedicate 30 minutes to the presentations, and then we will have 15 minutes for Q&A. So if you have any questions, you can write them in the chat box. Please add your name and affiliation, or you can also, I think, take the floor in the last 50 minutes to ask directly your questions to the speakers. So, and talking about speakers, we have a lineup of three excellent speakers. We have Alexandra Papadopoulou, project manager of the C-TRACK-50 project from the National Technical University of Athens. Alexandra is a chemical engineer and holds a Master Science in Energy Production and Management and PhD on decision support systems related to energy efficiency. And we also have Aya Zuchika, project manager at Riga Planning Region, which is a region involved in the C-TRACK-50 project, and Aya is a climate and environmental expert and holds a Master Science in Environmental Sciences. And last but not least, we have Alice Palmer, who's the project manager of the CESEEU project for the University of Tartu and acting head of the Center of Renewable Energy in the Estonian University of Life Sciences. Alice has a Master Science in Environmental Protection. So, without further ado, Alexandra, the floor is yours.
Someone needs to enable my screen sharing. I hope you can all now see my screen. So good evening, everyone. My name is Alexandra Papadopoulou, and I will be sharing today the C-TRACK-50 experience on helping cities lead the way to a carbon neutral future. The C-TRACK-50 consortium partners are 13 across 11 countries and comprise basically from regional energy agencies, regions, and two networks. A few things on the C-TRACK-50 objectives. So the project aims to facilitate local and regional energy and climate policy planning across 3 tiers by mobilizing these authorities in defining their long-term objectives and priorities, by promoting the multi-level governance structures and rationale, and by providing actual support to these authorities to develop, finance, and implement the plans and the actions that have foreseen in them towards carbon neutrality by 2050. But what do we mean when we say, what are the differences when we say about energy and climate plans towards carbon neutrality? So basically, those who have experience in policy planning, we can say that there are some key differentiations between planning at the short and the long-term level that mainly have to do with the establishment of the structures, the engagement of the actors, and the understanding of the local context and situation. So we could actually say that the first key step is to set the vision for 2050 and establishing the necessary framework in terms of the decarbonization team, in terms of engaging through multi-level governance, all the necessary departments within a local authority, because we need to have in mind that when we are planning at the long term, there is not one specific sector or two specific sectors like buildings that usually attract the attention of the local authorities, but you have to plan across all different sectors and layers. Then to develop the strategic vision and commit to that vision. It is crucial when you are at the second step to assess the current situation, to have a very good understanding of the local context and the reality of your municipality, the different characteristics of local authorities, such as rural municipalities, touristic municipalities, urban environment, etc., as well as the size of the municipality, can actually affect the priorities set on the long-term horizon. This also has to do with understanding what is the potential in terms of possibilities when you are planning of actions, whether it has to be on renewable energy, I'm giving an example, for example, biomass or hydroelectricity. So someone has to be very cautious on what are the key considerations there that have to be aligned with the plan. Assessing risks and vulnerabilities and baseline emission inventory establishing are two crucial things that have to be realized. Municipalities working already on the Covenant of Mayors are well aware of these processes, but what we also have to introduce a little bit more here is to check the alignment of this current situation, assessing the current situation. It has to be aligned with the data on all the other existing plans. And I'm stressing this because due to the lack of multi-level governance, we have seen a lot of departments working in parallel without actually coordinating their actions. So in terms to have a strategic plan, a key plan towards 2050, you have to engage all of the actors, all of the stakeholders within the municipality, within your own local authority, as well as the local stakeholders that are across the sectors. Finally, turning the vision into action focuses on designing the action, aligning them with the local, regional, and national priorities to define roles and responsibilities in order to implement and monitor and evaluate these actions. It is crucial, as you see, to connect, engage, and train with all the relevant actors in mobilizing the citizens in order to achieve the set objectives. As mentioned, what is really necessary is for a municipality, regardless of what already has in place in terms of plans, to focus on engaging actions and implementing actions and activities across all levels. So whether it is buildings, whether it is infrastructure, mobility, waste, renewable energy generation, on electricity or heat, regardless if these issues are topics that has worked in the past or not. Especially under the Covenant of Mayors, where this is applicable, or other national plans in place. The challenges and the significant challenge that the municipality should be really aware of when planning for 30 years ahead is to be aware of carbon lock-in during the transition period and actions that can lead to maladaptation. So what we mean by this is to be very aware during this transiting period how they are planning their activities, because they can implement actions that will lead to achieving their short and midterm objectives in 10 years potentially. But if these actions are not properly, they are not properly designed, they might endanger the long-term achievement of carbon neutrality. Local authorities need also to lead by example. So they need to be the level that signifies signals to the citizen what are the actions that can be implemented, embracing the energy efficiency first principle and adopting a holistic approach by linking and aligning all the plans and actions together. As mentioned before, the local characteristics and particularities in the region should be carefully considered, and all the stakeholders and citizens should be engaged. Also, addressing energy poverty and social inequalities in this local planning is something that should also be taken into consideration. Based on the work that we have realized under the CESEEU project, there has been a guidebook that has been produced on how to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. This guidebook, you have the link here that you can already download it. It describes the key steps in the planning process and outlines the important consideration per step. It also presents best practices from more than 30 cities across EU in order to inspire other cities and regions to design action and take action towards decarbonization. The guidebook is already available in English and will soon be available in 10 more EU languages. In terms of results that have already been achieved, C-TRACK-50 has supported 107 local authorities in developing their long-term energy and climate plans for 2050, and 11 regions to develop regional plans or recommendation documents. Based on these plans that address 2050 and have intermediate targets for 2030 and 2040, there are significant reductions in energy saving, in energy, and energy production that have been considered and estimated, as well as significant emission reductions. Overall, hundreds of civil servants have been trained over these past 3 years on building their capacity on energy and climate policy planning. Moreover, the municipalities have received support to submit financing proposals with more than 50 million euro investments already approved from the proposals and more than 72 million euro proposals that have been already submitted, with more being on the way. Summarizing and focusing on the lessons learned from our so far work, we can stress that multi-level governance can facilitate the municipalities' work, and especially when we are discussing smaller municipalities where regions and regional energy agencies can be a catalyst for their work. So these regions and regional energy agencies can also support the municipalities, smaller municipalities, in receiving innovative financing mechanisms and engage in these procedures and moving away from grants. And my colleague Aya Jusica from the Riga Planning Region will present the Riga Planning Region's experience in this and how they have supported the municipalities in Latvia. Another key lesson learned is to adopt a holistic approach, as mentioned before, leading all municipal plans. The aim is to have a strategic planning document that is the reference point in the municipality on their actions towards 2050, and to establish all the relevant governance structure at the municipal level. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alexandra. Aya, please take the floor.
Thank you. Okay, can you see my screen? Do you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Sorry. And now?
Yes, now it's, yes, now it works.
Okay, I will make it full.
Yeah, now it's good.
Now it's better. Okay, so thank you for giving floor to me. My name is Aya Zucik and I represent Riga Planning Region, and today I was invited to share our experience with Elena. So basically what I wanted to say, in 2018 when we started C-TRACK-50 project, we had of course many tasks to do in the project, but the main two tasks were to help municipalities with the sustainable energy and climate action plan development, and help or support municipalities to implement actions that are in this indicated in these plans. After discussion with the municipalities, we understood that the most challenging sector for the municipalities to do actions or somehow to change things or improve things is transport sector. And that's why after discussions with the municipalities, stakeholders, field experts, we decided to support municipalities creating one common project, which would be about mobility hubs development in a Riga metropolitan area. So in the end, we came to the proposal to create a project application for ELANA, which will be for 54 smart and sustainable mobility hubs. And the project application would consist of 4 main, let's say, strategic points or activities or actions, which would be modernization and digitalization of public transport, improvement and integration or establishment of charging infrastructure, development intelligent transport system, meaning real-time travel information, smart ticketing, and smart energy infrastructure as well, energy efficiency, enlightened system, local renewable energy resources, etc. So basically what we did, we in the beginning of this idea, we signed the contract with the external experts. We met municipalities and stakeholders of the field to discuss the idea. And after all these, let's say, quite long period of discussions, we came with the project scope and project idea. And afterwards, and also during the process, we already started to consult with European Investment Bank to discuss this idea. And afterwards, we submitted the 3 pre-application forms, each time more improved, to European Investment Bank. And at the moment, we are still in the process to continue. But this was the steps we went through till this moment. So to understand how large involvement of stakeholders was done, there were 22 municipalities, there was Ministry of Transportation, there was Railway Company of Latvia, and other main stakeholders who would be involved. And the idea was that, the idea is that these mobility hubs will be connected to the railway network. So I'm showing, and to understand why we decide this is because Riga, as a capital city of Latvia, of course, Riga has the largest number of inhabitants of Latvia, and we have the situation that most of the inhabitants live in neighborhoods of Riga and Riga metropolitan area, and they travel to Riga or the main cities which are in the region to work. And the pressure on the transport system is quite large, and the CO2 emissions are quite large. So, and these all aspects was important to try to do something for in the future differently, to encourage people to switch from cars to the public transport. That's why we decided to focus on these mobility hubs as the solutions how we could do this. So what we understand, what are these challenges, what we are facing if we want to create the ELANA project? We understood that municipalities are in our region quite different, starting from large, ending with small ones, and not all of them are willing to cooperate with the neighbor municipalities. There was quite a large, let's say, lack of trust for such funding. Let's say that municipalities are used to have grants and not to be innovative, and not to be not even innovative, but not to be to risk. And also, of course, there was because we have quite small experience, there was a lack of trust how this project could be, who could do this, and municipality don't have capacity to do this on their own. About the application development, we understand that there's still quite small experience in Latvia. We face that there will be a long period with communication with European Investment Bank. And also there's in our region, we don't have capacity to create such application. So it was great moment then C-TRACK-50 project came into on the stage, and Riga planning region had possibility to learn and go through all this process. We learned from our project partners who have already worked with ELANA, their experience. For us, it was really crucial that in the first stage, when we helped municipalities to develop the sustainable energy action plans, we already built trust in region as an organization. That's why when we went to them and talked about this project and this idea, the trust was already on the stage, and it was much easier to talk with them. It was very it was very important that we had already contracted field experts who know the field of finances for investments of energy, or also energy efficiency issues, and we had possibility through this project have them in our team. Very important, our role as a region was that we organized this multi-stakeholder dialogues, which was, I would say, the most crucial thing in all this project. And also it was important that the region understand or even raise the capacity of our governance role as organization. And we understand that the region can support local authorities in various ways, and in future it can be even we can develop this direction even more. And we understand that municipalities trust more regions, as they see that regions, and as they feel that region is like can gather them, and they feel like in under one umbrella, and that region is the natural organization that does helps them to come together around one table. And last, I would want to stress out the lessons we learned, which I would say it's quite important for everybody who are willing to do this LN project application development. With the help of this project, we really had possibility to establish this multi-stakeholder dialogue, and I would say that it's quite lengthy and demanding process. During the project, we had many workshops, seminars, info days, materials, and this all helped us to build this trust. And afterwards, when we had these dialogues and our meetings, for us it was much easier to talk with the municipalities. But I would like to stress out, it's important when you are creating such project, there you should talk not only with municipalities, but really the field experts and field companies. Multi-stakeholder dialogue is important to have. Also, it was really for us, let's say, finding that through this project we understood that region found a good way to be this neutral project coordinator, and we can provide for municipalities new ways how to cooperate. And also we understand that region can have the role to help municipalities identify financial support possibilities for governmental funds, which I would say in Latvia case is new, because I know in other countries region is the one who is managing funds. In Latvia case, it's a little bit different. So this for us was also a new, let's say, field that we understand that region can help municipalities to work with these funds and to support them to apply for the funds. About application preparation, I would say that the lessons we learned, it's that already in the beginning you have to have already clear and detailed concept on investment program that you will be necessary to have. I would say that we were quite optimistic in the beginning, planning that all the process will take up to 1 year, but in reality it's taking more. So you have to be aware about this. It's very crucial to attract external experts, I would say. It will add quite big added value for you, because during these discussions with the experts, with the multi-level stakeholders, you'll find new things, you'll find new innovative ways how to do the realize your project. Also, you have to understand that actually 80% of your work will be done with stakeholders, and only 20% of time you will spend to create preparation of application. So I would like to mark this point, be ready for that. And also the lesson for us was quite important that we learned that when you are thinking about ELENA, you have to already know quite detailed what will be this financial resource, who will give you funds or money afterwards when you will start to implement ELENA project. So this you should know already in the quite soon in the stage when you are starting to prepare the application. So this would be all from my side about ELENA experience in Riga planning region with the help of C-TRACK project.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Aya. And now, in the interest of the time, I will give the floor to Alice for the presentation of the CESEEU project.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you. Just a second. You see my slides, okay?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, I represent a similar project like C-TRACK-50 is. We are focusing on the Central and Eastern European countries in terms of helping them catch up on the sustainable energy development. And I represent the University of Tartu in this case, and who is the lead partner for the CESEEU project. Our project brings together 11 partners from 10 countries, and 2 of them are expert partners. We have Controsultra on board from Austria, who is very experienced in providing expert support for developing different kinds of sustainable energy and climate action plans. And we also have on board Climate Alliance, who is the one of the founding members of the Covenant of Mayors. So our goal is to work very closely with the Covenant of Mayors in developing our activities and carrying them out. We just started with this project in November in 2020. So we're just getting to speed up with our activities. And it is a follow-up project for Panel 2050, or Partnership for New Energy Leadership, which ended in 2019 and also focused on Central and Eastern European countries. So what we are building on is something that we did in panel. Panel focused mostly in, from one side, developing regional energy visions, roadmaps, and very concrete action plans for the partner regions, while also looking at our experience and providing or developing suitable training materials and a guidebook that is adjusted for the Central and Eastern European countries. And within that project, we developed CESEEU, which is the Central and Eastern European Sustainable Energy Network, to bring together the actors in the region and sort of like help the communication with the EU, so that our interests would be represented well on the EU level, because it is not a secret that this part of Europe has been lagging behind a little bit when it comes to energy transition and economical development in several areas. So with CESEEU, we try to help overcome these barriers or bottlenecks that we have in that place. But when we were doing panel project, then some things became very clear. This is why we planned or decided to apply for a follow-up project, which is the CESEEU project. And the goal here is to help build the capacity of the local municipalities in developing sustainable energy and climate action plans. While it may seem very straightforward and simple task, the actual goal is to help the region, or the Central and Eastern European region, to give their contribution towards meeting the EU's climate goals, and actually also on the sense of achieving their own national climate goals. So we have this like an iceberg. The overall goal is actually a lot bigger than it seemingly is. And why we are doing this? It was one of the activities that we started right off the bat when we started the project. Is we went to the few cities that have already done a CEEP or a SECAP in the Central and Eastern European countries and asked them, how did it go? What are your main experiences? What are your main challenges? And what are your lessons learned? And we did that with the cities, and we did that also with the experts who have been working with the like sustainable energy and climate action plans. And the key thing, like the main two things, is something that we already knew because of the panel project. There is a problem with finances, and there is a problem with human resources or like the capacity of the experts, especially in the smaller municipalities when it comes to developing such action plans. When it comes to finances, it is not just that they don't have suitable financing mechanisms available on the national level, it is also that they don't have the skill to raise money for those activities or apply for wider grants, or like working jointly to apply for grants that would enable them to invest into energy efficiency or reducing energy poverty and further. They need outside support for carrying out those, like increasing their skill and also carrying out those projects. And there is also actually reluctance to apply for ELENAs, for example, because they say that the risk of failing is there. And when you fail, you have to pay the money back. So they rather not do anything than to take that risk. So this is something that we will definitely address in our activities within CESEEU project. The other very big problem that emerge is the data collection, not only from the data availability, the data quality, but also the GDPR challenges, because a lot of the data, when it comes to assessing the impact of different sustainable energy measures, the data is owned by private companies, and they are reluctant to giving it out by, saying that it might violate the GDPR challenges. And very often they don't actually collect data very well, so it isn't actually comparable. And there's a lot of issues which I'm pretty sure that the C-TRACK project partnership also has come across. The underlying goal or the underlying problem that we would like to solve within our project when it comes to data is that we will definitely lobby for a EU standard on data collection, how it should be collected and structured so it would be comparable across the countries, and actually would support the implementation of SECAPs in majority of European regions. One challenge that we also are facing currently in our partner countries is there are possibilities for to complete national climate and energy action plans, which have different methodology. Their level of details varies on a great scale between countries and between regions, and it seems sometimes it's easier to do than a SECAP, but the long-term effect is somewhat harder to measure. So it is hard for some municipalities to actually take on the Covenant of Mayors obligation, because they go on the sort of like a simpler path to do the national climate and energy action plan. They can just show that, oh, we have this plan, but actually the overall system in terms of implementation and additional trainings and activities that the Covenant of Mayors provides is lacking with those national programs. So this is something to overcome in the region. And then, of course, there is a very strong top-down political landscape in most of the post-Soviet countries. The dialogue between the national level, who does the regulations, and the local level that has to implement those regulations, let's say it's poor. So it definitely needs, the multi-level governance approach needs to be addressed in majority of the CEE countries. And because of that non-existent dialogue between those different levels, the lack of tools that the municipalities to have to influence the private sector, for example, is almost non-existent. And not to mention that the tax income that the municipalities have is also low, which means that they have very few resources to build up incentives for the private sector to actually contribute to the reaching the energy and climate plan goals, or the let's say it goals.
Alice, sorry, 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Oh my God. Okay, so I'm going to rush right through it. So there is also issue with the dissonance between political will and public opinion. So that is something that we will address in terms of the multi-level governance activities that we have in the project. I will not focus on the second slide, because it's kind of like addresses several key aspects that are covered with the previous larger challenges that we are facing. But how we are addressing it is we will look at the whole challenges that we have on 4 different levels. We want to provide guidance in how do you address the multi-level discrepancies that you have in the political system and the financing system. We will train the local municipalities because there's a clear need for support in terms of the abilities to carry out the activities. And through the CESEEU network, we will integrate the needs of the CEE region with the Covenant of Mayors activities. And of course, what the overall end result with this project will be that we will provide a template that other municipalities can follow. So we want to end up with a very clear structure of steps. It's like, what should you do if you have this type of political system, these kinds of available financing mechanisms, sizes of the municipalities and whatnot, so that it's very straightforward and sort of like others can learn from the experiences that we would have in this project. And of course, as with every other EU project, we have very bold goals of saving the environment through reducing our greenhouse gas emissions and helping the region catch up with other European Union countries in terms of sustainable energy transition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alice. I would really like to have more time to discuss with the 3 of you, but unfortunately we are limited to 45 minutes today. So I think now we can open the floor to questions to our speakers. Any questions? Because in the meantime, I might have one. So I mean, a common element of your project is that the year 2050, which is quite far away. But I mean, you all demonstrated that cities and regions need to start planning their future now. I mean, 2050 is far away, but there is not much time left. So what would you suggest to cities and regions, to other cities and regions which are not part of your projects, which want to take up this challenge? Where to start from?
Alexandra, you want to go first, or me?
Yes, I can go first. Thank you. So basically, I would say that at least for the first years, the important thing is not to do the wrong thing. I mentioned in my presentation, in my opinion, the most significant challenge the municipalities face in the transition period is to avoid the carbon lock-in, to avoid the maladaptation actions. So basically, although it might not seem that they can start now planning the really ambitious targets for 30 years ahead, I think the most important thing is to avoid the significant mistakes. So when I'm saying avoiding significant mistakes, of course, we know there are some transition fuels that the majority of the municipalities take into consideration for the next decade. The challenge, in my opinion, is not to focus too much on them and create the necessary conditions that afterwards create this lock-in, and the municipalities have no other option than continue in this process. So it's basically to have this in mind to avoid, let's say, I will mention, let's say, to avoid completely moving for example, for heating in buildings, to avoid going from diesel fuel to going to infrastructures on natural gas that cover the whole city. And there is a huge focus on natural gas, because it's otherwise when you build this infrastructure and it's solely dependent on this fuel, it's quite difficult afterwards to discuss with such huge investments, to discuss decarbonization or other potential challenges. So you need to have carefully designed what will be the balance there, how you will see in the long-term objective, this challenge. So basically, as I said, first avoiding the mistakes and then gradually engaging multi-level governance, even within the local authority. This is the challenge we see a lot. I mean, different departments not discussing with each other, not knowing each one what the others are doing. I think this is the most important thing they need to start.
Yes,
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with you.
I also totally agree the same completely. You should definitely to hear local municipalities, regions in national level, because we see so many times that these national aims and goals are created without any talking to the local municipalities, and even taking into consideration the region thoughts or region plans. And this is, I think it's the basic, and it's lacking. This multi-level stakeholder dialogue is lacking.
Yeah, I would just like to, I absolutely 120% agree. I would just like to add to there also that they would be bold in terms of learning from others' experience also. Look at some similar municipalities in your region, in neighboring countries, or even maybe who's the similar size, and go and talk to them and ask how they did it. Because they probably already overcame the main key challenges that you would face, and you can learn from that, or you get new ideas of how to approach in different ways on a very general problems that you might face in terms of transitioning, because it's not an easy process and it needs to encompass all the sectors in your municipality. So this is why it makes it very scary and challenging. And the other thing is stakeholder engagement. That is, yes, it takes 80% of the time. I absolutely agree. But it is absolutely relevant that you have stakeholders on board, that they work with you on a common goal. This is something that is absolutely, it's worth the time and investment that you would make into that sector.
Thank you. There is an interesting question from the chat. So according to your experiences, do you think there is a gap in ambition, resources, knowledge between the different parts of Europe, Eastern, Western, South, and North Europe? And if yes, are you working on bridging this gap? Alice, would you like to follow up, and then
yes.
I can?
We actually, that is one of our goals, to bridge this gap, because we see that there is a very clear, I would say that the starting point of different regions in Europe was a little bit different. Like, we didn't start everybody at the same condition. And so it's like some of them already had a head start and others need to catch up. And that's why we're working very closely with the Covenant of Mayors to make sure that the training and the support they provide on the EU level actually addresses this gap. And so that we can, help support those regions who need it a little bit more than the others.
Alexandra and Aya from the C-TRACK-50 project. What do you think? 1 minute, please.
I mean, yes, we experience this as well, also with different countries, different realities. I will mention, for example, in Spain, our region there was working with municipalities that have a high dependence on carbon. So they are coal producing area. We had other areas like in Poland and Romania where there are not such ambitious targets at the national level. So it's even challenging to start discussing with the local authorities on how you are proceeding there. So it's a quite different perspective on where you start and how you discuss and how you can even put on the table the word decarbonization, because for some communities, this really threatens the core of their existence when you are discussing decarbonization. But each one has to find their own path there. There is no, let's say, there is no common way that we can all go in the same path. There are different paths that will lead there, and each one has to find their own way to achieve this.
And if I still have time, I would like to add that it's very important to learn this best experience and best examples. For example, I know that in Nordic countries, like in Latvia, we have very well developed district heating system. Meanwhile, and this is something we can show and let people to learn. Meanwhile, we don't have much experience in wind energy, in solar energy as a resource to be used. So, and this kind of, I would say, even in the first look, you'll think that we are quite different and there is nothing that we could learn from each other. Then if you look in the detailed and in more deep about the resources we have and our historical experience, in each of our countries, there is something that we can actually give as something that you can learn from us, and there is something that we would be willing to learn from you. And this is, I think, the great thing about Europe and about our all to be together. So yeah, and these kind of projects or cooperations are excellent platform to do this.
Thank you very much. And with these inspiring closing remarks, I have to thank you again, Alexandra, Aya, and Alice. And thank you to the participants for their interest in the session. So the recording of the session will be available on the conference website shortly after. And I would like to wish you an interesting continuation of the conference. So the next round of sessions will start at 4 p.m. So enjoy your little break and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.